be the controller in that game, which Maru just did not anticipate, looking very disappointed in that game.
Yeah, like that's not the Maru that we're all used to seeing. Usually he's the one that dictates the pace of the game, but here just absolutely caught off guard there. Anyhow, spawning in the bottom left here, as our Reds are currently 1-0 up, it is Rogue.
In the top right, as the blue Terran, he is Maru.
Rogue's game plan for that, or rather, yeah, his series plan going in with a bit of a sneaky all-in there. I thought that was nice to start off the series against Maru, but that really feels how Rogue's been playing this tournament in general. Like, that series against Dark, every game was pretty much a timing-based attack, and he doesn't really want to let his opponents breathe. He's definitely playing like a strangling kind of a series gamer here, which is really, really cool to see players play the player as opposed to just doing anything.
Yeah, I feel like that has described Rogue in the last few days. He's absolutely been playing the player, and it has worked out really, really well. Getting the first game in a best of 5 won't actually be the end-all be-all, but we still have him keeping control of the series by going for an early pool in this game on Eternal Empire. Maru is going to be sending an SCV, so he won't be taking any unnecessary damage.
And this game, Rogue opened up with a pool first, which is rather cheeky. You know, you can get those 4 links across the map and potentially do some damage to the command center, cancel the SCV maybe. But also what it shows to me is maybe he's played enough against Maru that he was like, this guy, if he loses a map, he'll do like a cheeky 2-racks or a 3-racks here and there. Me going for the pool first, it'll be much better. Even his scouting with the Overlords was just checking all around his base for those proxy rexes. But this SCV, it does its job, because when you play against this, you just keep the Reaper at home and you're in great shape.
Yeah, exactly. There is definitely a little bit of like, you could do this, so I do this, and now I could do this because I did that, you know, so on and so forth. But the other thing that can happen when it is scouted for the Zergs, that they can just try and hide those lings. They're not going to be able to delay the command center, but at least they get, you know, a cheeky SCV, right?
And yeah, that Reaper on the map, it did go for where it thought the lings would be, but Rogue just left him to the top left side of the map, not even bothering to defend his base with them. And I kind of like that, actually. He's just maybe using them for a later date, maybe at the third to see when that goes down, or just later on scouting. He's really respecting this pool first build. Like, getting a bunker up, maybe assuming that, oh dear, it could be like Roche's and what have you. And that's the kind of thing. A sneaky build in the first game, that can throw you off for the rest of the series.
Exactly. Like this, it seems like a very small thing, guys. But this actually starts to feel a little bit worse for Maru. He's not confident that he's going to control the game, and Terran is so momentum based. So Rogue, without even truly committing that much, is absolutely in Maru's head. But you know, Maru had to take that seriously because his Reaper could not get the additional scout. It does now, and actually dies.
Did it actually get to see the third base? I don't think it did, right? When it hopped down? No. And all the timings are thrown off when you do a pool first, because normally that hatchery, you want to get it down by like the 2-minute 30-ish mark, and when he scouted past there and it still wasn't up, I think the one saving grace there was when he saw only one drone still mining on gas, because that's like, okay, he's obviously not committing to any kind of roach push or tech play, and that can at least make Maru feel a little bit safer here.
Yeah, that is a very good point. Like, that was still worth the Reaper diving in, even though, especially with a guy like Maru, he can actually use it for his Hellions. And in fact, he knows that. So he's going to get another one, actually. That is not something we usually see. It's 50-50, which actually is quite a bit of gas in the early game.
What do you think about this Reaper zombie group? Because getting a second Reaper after your first one dies, I know it like allows the Hellions to sustain themselves a little bit better, given that the Reaper can regenerate if it gets poked by the Queens, but still an unusual choice by him.
You know, we're so used to seeing a Reaper, but really, a Reaper's kind of expensive, guys. Like, it's not something you want to remake, especially in the early parts when you're not just like free-flowing on 50, 60 SCVs and all your gases. So it's something that he, I guess, just finds a lot of confidence in. This makes him think that he can actually pressure with those Hellions, which he did do a great job of in game number 1.
Oh yeah, defo. And I mean, it's a bit harder to attack on this map, given that Rogue has gone for that block at his natural with the Evo Chambers. Again, just smart building placement. This could get a bit dicey, I suppose, if like tanks and Marines are set up behind that, but Rogue, he's just on the ball, it seems, so far.
That Reaper, just to like give some context, would have delayed the Tech Lab and then also delayed Stim a little bit as well. So this is usually a build that has some of the quicker Stim you can get. Liberator is not doing so hot here. Lots of Queens were prepared, but the Hellions very aggressively going forward. Only see a handful of Lings. The Evolution Chambers are going to block the obvious pathway, but not the one from the third base. That was the Queen's job, and they failed.
Oh, they certainly did. The Liberator lulled them out of position, and here, this is damage being done that shouldn't be getting done at this point. Lovely Queen block at the bottom of the ramp. The Hellions will get cleaned up, but 6 drones going down along with the lost mining. This actually wasn't too bad for Maru.
Yeah, those Queens, they messed up hard, and then they like quickly recovered before their boss noticed type thing. Like, oh, we got this. That was excellent use of the Liberator, and you know, some people look at the Liberator and it's like, does it ever really do damage? Well, sometimes it just lets other things do damage, and those Hellions at least did something for their sacrifice, but not a whole lot. Behind it, Maru does add on a ton of barracks, 1-1. We're getting into the macro game, and Rogue is going into Ling Baneling.
Yeah, the melee upgrade's very different for Rogue this game. His creep spread is looking a bit stronger this game too. He's putting a lot more emphasis on that. I think he also tried to clear up the rocks at his natural as well, now realizing that he doesn't have to worry about that Hellion stage of the game. And it also, this means that you're not going to get owned later on by a little army behind that ramp. Third base goes down for Maru as well. A little bit of map control still with the Hellions.
So much of the defense of a Zerg is relying on those surrounds. Having all the avenues possible open is very important. And that's actually why Eternal Empire can be an okay map. Even though it has plenty of options for the run-bys, for getting big surrounds, it's also a map that has like high ground 3 bases, right? So you actually can build some decent walls on the Terran side as well, which is exactly what Maru is doing. Not just here, blocking that opportunity, but also to the left. We've seen a lot of great walls come down here.
Oh, certainly. Maru's done a good job of just making Rogue feel a little bit uncomfortable, and ooh, a Spire going down, because 66 drones against 61 SCVs, it's not that much of a lead, I feel, and if there's one thing that we don't give Maru enough credit for, and I feel he does this so well, is the fact that he SCVs up like a madman. His macro truly is impeccable. Yeah,
he is doing a fairly common 2-tank push. I mean, it hits around that 7-minute mark, and usually Zergs are very knowledgeable about that, right? So they want centrifugal hooks. They want that Baneling speed done for this, but it is nowhere near done. It's already on the front line, clearing up some creep. Perhaps he's going to buy some time with the Ling run by, but now it's going to turn into a surround.
Oh, I'm a bit scared for Maru here. The tanks are getting surrounded by the Lings. Great focus fire on the Banelings, but it is not quite enough. There was a lot of Rogue, but still, that trade was quite expensive for Rogue as he lost quite a lot of gas in those Banelings and probably wanted to keep more of them alive than he did.
Yeah, but I guess he could have also just made more Banelings to feel more comfortable. That wasn't really that many. He still cleans it up because that surround was so darn good. Oh, there's a couple of additional Hellions. So we look at the gas count. It's really not that bad for Rogue. He's going to be able to make plenty of mutas, but right now, taking, I guess, an overzealous trade there with all those Lings.
Not just overzealous. I can't believe the fact he tried to wrap around that cluster of Marines. Like, that was ridiculous. And 14 mutas on the way, but he's being hardcore pushed by Maru this game, while he's taken a 4th base behind all this too.
Perhaps he should have just invested into more Banelings instead of all those mutas. They'll certainly help out if Maru, especially if Maru just, there's a bit of trust here. There's like, I trust that you will be able to defend. I got a bit of a bop on you right now, but can I really just dive forward? You're never going to think that about a guy versus like Rogue. So the mutas should get their time to shine as Maru is moving on a creep that's a bit scary, but the mutas, even at that high count, can't really take on Stim Marines.
And getting the mutas seen so early, this gives Maru time to get turrets up back at home. He's adding on the 8 barracks here, or rather going up to that count. And now it's kind of like trying to get back home safely. He knows what his opponent's doing. He knows that he hasn't got a 4th base up yet, running ready. And he just wants to meet up with the rest of his army.
Transferring over to the drilling claws, that does complicate the battles an awful lot. Surrounds, a little less effective, as the tanks are especially brutal for that. But also drilling claws can actually help against the muta harassment, of which now it starts up here. He's going to go up to 17 mutas. I assume a +1 attack will start?
It should.
Okay, there we go.
Wow, the mind reader of Zombie Grub here. And now Rogue's in this kind of precarious spot where he's taken a brand new 4th here on the left side of the map, and you see that Maru knows this already, and look how streamlined he is across the map. He's just focusing like an arrowhead, just going straight for the weak spots of Rogue.
Yeah, Rogue taking his base is actually a bit overzealous. We'll talk about that in a second. There is an engagement here. The mutas once again trying their best. When a Thor pops out, eventually one will. They can no longer do that type of micro, but they can't actually take on that army anyways. They're forced to retreat and try and do something else. Maru anticipates this and actually gets so many mutas. Wow, that was excellent positioning from Maru.
It was just great play, great foresight by the young Terran here. He's just tracking down these mutas, and he's losing so many of them as well. And he can't keep up a fourth base. And one of the things about Mutaling Bane is you normally have good map control. You're trying to keep the Terran at home with the mutas. And so far, Maru's not taking the bait. He is just all over the place.
And his attacks are, as you were talking about, they're so pointed, but what they also do is protect his expansion. So when they both expand to the left, that does favor the aggressor, which in that specific instance was Maru. He absolutely had the best aggression, and finding those mutas was just so darn good. Rogue does not want to give up on this type of style yet, though, so he's going to rebuild them. That's very expensive, 100 per muta, and he needs a lot of that into defense on the ground as Maru once again heads to that right side base.
Dropping the natural does keep the mutas over there. This isn't the biggest army by Maru. He's being careful back at home at the same time, using the Marauders to poke a little bit. I love this, the fact that he's pre-spread already, and the micro of Maru is good.
Yeah, that's that's kind of what he's known for. And it's going to be a good engagement for him. The tank even getting a couple of shots off, a wouldn't mind to fall back to, and continuing to rally forward. There's that Thor I was talking about, so the mutas really can't do that bulking up micro anymore to take out like a couple Marauders here and there. In fact, Rogue just deciding I cannot save that base. A little bit of the Migrant Zerg here is going to expand elsewhere and also attack elsewhere.
Maru's taken out the 6 o'clock base, but he's running the rest of his army to deal with the threat of Rogue. He realizes he's ahead economically, and he's just dealing with this so darn well. That's a large amount of Banelings, though, but can you be making these kind of trades? They're actually not blowing up on it. He even keeps his SVs alive by loading into the planetary to avoid all that madness and keeps the PF alive, too.
No one ever does that. Oh, my good God. No one does that usually because it's not important, but oh, that looked so fancy. That was such a clean game.